Welcome to the call. If you have any questions or anything you want to talk about that we discussed during the meeting here, feel free to just go ahead and use the chat feature. But welcome. Um, but we decided to kick it up a notch and start with an educational program, and then I have a new software system that I'm using complimentary to clients to help protect you from any sort of scams and frauds and that sort of thing that can happen out there. So um, we're going to get started here in just a second. What we're going to talk about today is not only about just cybersecurity in general, but how to safeguard your financial life from things like scams, phishing, online fraud. Um, we're going to look at things you can do at any given day to, protect yourselves, just the basics. We're going to learn more about what you can do to protect your financial information, because let's face it, the fraud is really around stealing your money, right? There's all kinds of sophisticated ways, and it's getting harder and harder with AI. And the new thing coming out there is the voiceovers, where they're able to find your voice on the internet somehow and then copy that over into their scam system and make phone calls. And it sounds like, your spouse or your children or your mother or father is calling you, asking you to send them money for some situation. So it's getting scary out there with all the new technology. And so we thought this would be pertinent and timely to discuss the ways that we're going to be working with you to protect your information and protect yourselves from getting your money stolen and fraudulent activities in general. So with that said, uh, Pete, tell me if I'm wrong, but Richard works directly with American funds, correct?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So as you can see here, we have his bio up. He's been a cybersecurity professional working with Capital Group, who's on the street known as American Funds. American Funds, something like what, $3.5 trillion under management.
Yeah, just
Um,
just hit that number.
Exactly. So they manage a ton of money for clients, customers across the country. And obviously, a group like that, people are trying to penetrate their protections in any given day. And so they've hired a top-notch group of people to help protect their data and their clients from these sorts of frauds as well. But ultimately, it starts with you, the individual, and then myself as a financial advisor. We're always talking about protecting you from market loss or saving you money in taxes, making sure your estate plan is up to date so that things pass cleanly and efficiently through the estate process. So we're always looking at ways to make your money more efficient and protect it in general from all the risks that are out there. And so I'm shockingly surprised how many advisors aren't really putting a lot of effort into this. Just a couple stories to get started. Here in our office, we've had a couple people who have been scammed. Um, One person was on the internet one day, and somehow they got a phone call from the FBI. And this person claiming to be from the FBI said something about, "Hey, we're aware of your browsing activity. We saw that you're on this website or that website, and what you're doing is illegal, and you need to pay us." And obviously, we all know the FBI is in general not extorting people, but this person was very shocked and had an emotional reaction to this kind of phone call, and immediately started trying to give this person claiming to be from the FBI some access to the bank account or getting some money wired to them. And fortunately, there was a family member nearby. Said, "No, it's a scam," but this person was very emotional about it and was convinced that they had to do something about it. They wanted to solve the problem by giving this person the money. So eventually, it was stopped, thankfully. And then we had another one that was using their computer and got some sort of email about how your Norton antivirus is needs to be updated. So click here. Next thing you know, they got a phone call. "Hi, I'm from Norton. Yeah, we're having a problem with the virus scan. It looks like you might have a virus. So what we like to do is remote in and fix that issue for you." And this person let the supposed person from Norton, which was a scammer, into their computer. And that person, once you're into the computer and they were controlling the mouse, once that person did that and allowed this person access, was talking to them, and the client saw some of this technical, virus scan activity going on the screen, but really there were other windows open, and they went in and accessed their Fidelity account, and within minutes, wired $70,000 out of the Fidelity account over to some account overseas or something, and the money was gone. Fidelity did nothing about it. They couldn't do anything about it. And that's it. Money was gone. So, beware not only of these types of scams, but any access you have to direct accounts like your Schwab accounts, your Fidelity accounts, that sort of thing. It's very easy, as I just demonstrated, for somebody to get in there and steal all your monies, right? And so we worry about market losses and things like that, but this can be devastating to somebody or to a family. So obviously a large concern, major concern, and the benefit to working with us is that we're your line of defense. We don't give you online access to your accounts. You can't trade your accounts without coming through us. And so there's a certain barrier there that works in this case to protect your monies. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Richard. Richard, thank you for joining in, and I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, hi there. Apologies for being late. Sounds like you've got some interesting information on some of the threats that exist today. I can just to expand, Leo, on what you were saying. One of the things I heard recently actually happened to an extended family member is they were having some problems with their MacBook, and they Googled Mac support, and the first entry on the Google search bar was a phone number that they called. And essentially that phone number, the first entry in Google, was a malicious actor that was then able to, request money for support and take money out of the credit card and kind of essentially pretend to support this person who needed help. So just to expound on that, the sophistication of the attacks is increasing so much so that you actually Google a support number. They are so good at basically search engine optimization that the first hit isn't actually Apple's support line. It is the support line of the threat actor. So just sounds like you were providing some relevant guidance there, and I thought I would add to that. Anyway, taking a step back, I'll just do a quick introduction. I'm Richard Israelite. I've worked in cybersecurity for over 20 years. All within the financial services industry. I've led large security teams that are responsible for a kind of a broad swath of responsibilities, such as responding to incidents as they arise, or within the access and identity management space, making sure that our authentication and authorization aspects of how people access data and what data they have access to, those policies and processes and technologies are in place. Today, I've been at Capital Group for roughly 2 years, coming on 2 years now, and I lead a function called Office of the CISO, which is responsible for our overall information security strategy here, as well as our identity and access management group. And I'm in Irvine. Well, at least I have been for the last year and a half or so. Moved from the East Coast, from Philadelphia. So I thought today what might make sense, and happy to take questions as we go, or direct me however you need or are interested in. I would just kind of give a kind of a broad overview of how we think about information security, how we think about it at a corporate level, but also how that impacts us personally in our in our homes and our families and kids and parents, etc. And then we can just talk about kind of what to watch out for, how AI is impacting us a little bit, how those threats are evolving given the rise of AI, and what we can do to stay safe. So if that sounds good, I'll just kind of dive straight into it. All right. Okay, so how do we think about information security? For years and years, we've used what we call the CIA triad, which is essentially the kind of the three main risk areas are confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So what that means really is when we think about a risk and we think about something applying either to capital or really to ourselves, we think about what does that impact? Does it impact the confidentiality of our data, our own personally identifiable information like our social security numbers or whatever? Does it somehow impact the integrity of the data In other words, has the data been changed? Can we no longer trust the information as a result of some malicious activity? Or the availability of the data? Are we not able to access the systems or the data that we need to be able to in order to perform some aspect of our work? The threats that we look out for are typically around, malicious software or ransomware, phishing and social engineering. So that's kind of what we've just spoken about, and what Leo mentioned in the front is like, getting an email and clicking on a bad link, or receiving a phone call and allowing somebody into your computer. That's really how, in our personal lives, and actually how it impacts organizations in general is really around that kind of phishing and social engineering aspect. In fact, there's a motto that we kind of live by, that in fact attackers don't break in these days. They actually just log in, and they log in by getting credentials from calling the help desk or calling the individual, and just basically socially engineering their way in. The threat actors remain the same. Who's trying to do this? It's cyber criminals that are very well funded, nation state actors, and from what hacktivists and opportunistic scammers are likely around, but not likely to cause the biggest damage. But also insider risks, folks doing things accidentally or maliciously, is something that an organization such as ours and any large financial services organization will have a program around, trying to ensure a mitigation or reduction of insider threat. And again, the objectives of these scammers, these criminals, is really just financial gain. Most threats, most hacks, most of these things are aimed at some financial gain for the malicious actor. And whether that's through stealing the data or encrypting the data, or just flat out fraud through changing account numbers or extorting or extorting money. It's really all about financial gain. Yeah, thank you. Just really just saying on this slide, we don't need to spend too much time on it, but mostly the trend is up and to the right as it relates to cyber threats and cyber crime. The average cost of attack is going up. The frequency of attacks is going up, and really just kind of underscores our need to be vigilant and thoughtful when we're kind of dealing with technology as a whole. All right, I guess I'll pause. Does anybody have any questions here, or do we move on? Anyone want to jump in? All right, we'll keep going. So when we think about it, again, from a personal perspective, what are the things that we need to keep in mind? What are the things that we need to do? How are these folks so successful as a result of these things that for the most part I think we would catch? The one thing to note is that you may see a text message from an unknown number that is asking you to, hey, we've seen your resume. We think you should apply for a job. This is very common now. You may see things like in your WhatsApp about joining. You can't beat this crypto group, or however much money you're going to get from that. Or hey, I need you to go buy me a gift card. By the way, this is also a very successful one, and often my kids will get it, or whomever, and they say like, why? Like who would fall for this, or like why are they doing this? And the reality is, it is so cheap for them to do these scams in a way that they can do hundreds of thousands of millions of them a year, and they only need a very small percentage of folks to fall for it to make it lucrative on their side. So, with that in mind, what should we look out for? Well, one is, it's too good to be true. In other words, there's an exclusive investment opportunity, or hey, this is a common one that I've received in the past. Hey, I'm speaking to the CEO and he asked me to reach out to you. He just needs you to go. He's in a client meeting. He just needs you to go buy a gift card. Um, these things that are, again, lucrative job opportunities, these things that are too good to be true, they often are and most likely are. Also, the excessive urgency, right? Unexpected calls or messages, or folks saying, there's something wrong with your computer. Oh, we're seeing suspicious activity coming from your computer. Or if you don't do something, we're going to suspend your account. We're going to, bill you excessively. These things, again, these are all techniques and tactics that are being used by these threat actors to have people click on the link or transfer money. So really, what do we need to do is we really just need to be thoughtful about these and just pause for a minute before clicking the link, pause for a minute before providing your information to anyone. Again, the attack may be multi-staged. So, stage one is get a little piece of information, take that away, do some research, and then come back with something at a later date that makes it seem even more legitimate. The other thing that we kind of, you don't have to be, it's kind of like home security, right? You don't have to be the safest, most secure house in the world. You just have to be more secure than your neighbor. And so these kind of just having these best practices within your own day-to-day really just make you less of a target. So things that we practice in my house is really just publicly posting things around, with my kids and my family, around posting things online and social media, just being thoughtful about what do we put out there in the public and what is discoverable by folks, both from just a cyber criminal perspective and who knows how that's going to be used in the future. So we try to keep that kind of in mind at home, which is obviously getting harder as social media arises and my kids get older, things like that. But just good to keep that in mind. All right, so how we can move to the next one. How is AI impacting us? Well, I think in this case, if we're talking about how do we personally, how are we going to be impacted from these things? Again, it's going to be just through social engineering and phishing. It's going to be an email that comes through, and it's going to be a link that we click, or it's going to be somebody we speak to on the phone and some information we give over in that way, or start a text message chain or respond to a text message chain in text or WhatsApp. That's really kind of the avenue, I think, that from a personal perspective, much less so from a kind of a corporate, how do we think about capital security perspective, but from a personal perspective, I think that's how most likely we could be impacted. And AI, previously, 2-3 years ago, before the rise of AI, it was easier to spot these things. In other words, the guidance that we were able to give folks was like, hey, that email, yes, it's going to try to be pressure you with some sort of excessive urgency, and yes, the offer is going to be too good to be true, or it's going to link you to this package that you think you're getting from UPS or Amazon or whatever. But we were able to do things that tipped us off. In other words, the grammar was poor, the spelling was poor. It didn't, it just wasn't kind of the exact message that you would typically receive from Amazon. There were these things that tipped us off. Now, frankly speaking, that's out the window. Now, with the rise of AI and LLMs, ChatGPT, etc., the email is perfectly spelled and the grammar is perfect and the commas are all in the right place and the email looks exactly like the one that comes from Amazon. So in that regard, it's become much easier. Similarly, with the rise of deepfakes and people being able, AI essentially being able to mimic our voices, and the thing that scares me a lot is getting, my daughter getting a call from somebody that sounds exactly like me as a scam, or me getting a similar call from somebody that sounds like a trusted person. So, again, this just wasn't possible a few years ago, maybe not even a year ago. These are very real situations now. that fraudulent threat actors are undertaking. So again, just one of the things that we've done in my house is implement a safe word that we're able to use that would it's just private between me and my family, and we're able to in the worst case scenario use that as a fail-safe to ensure that we're speaking to the person that we think we're speaking with. Yeah, and again, just like the biggest threats to the organization now are really kind of around this kind of AI deepfake, enabled threats. Just anecdotally, last year I think there was a multi-million-dollar fraud in which a company transferred again millions of dollars to a fraudulent threat actor because they were on a call with the CFO and multiple other executives on this video call and being given instructions to transfer money. And they thought they were speaking to the executive team of the company when in fact just completely, deep fake AI generated people on a Zoom call just like this. So, the threat is real and again, just lucrative business for the threat actors. Yeah, we can change. Thank you. So, what are some of the things we can do to keep ourselves safe? Obviously, the device itself needs to be secure. Kind of the more up to date the software, or the more you keep your device up to date from a software perspective, automatically enable updates, whether it's on your Windows machine or your Mac or your phone or whatever. That automatic updating of that software will automatically apply security patches. Security patches essentially prevent vulnerabilities from being exploited. Not to say that it's foolproof, of course it's not, but it's just a very easy way in which we can keep our devices updated. Similarly with antivirus software on our machines. The number one thing that we should do is on securing our account logins. As I said, attackers don't break in, they log in. And the number one thing we can do here is to enable multi-factor authentication on the systems that we care about. So yes, we should avoid reusing passwords, of course, and we should make passwords, sufficiently long and complex, which is just traditional kind of thinking around password management. But MFA by far and away is the number one thing that will protect our account. So whether that is enabling a text verification code to be sent, which is very typical now. And maybe I'll just take a step back just so we're clear. MFA means multi-factor authentication. Traditionally, we've thought about authentication in kind of three pillars. It's either something which is a password, something you have, which is sometimes we'll use a separate authentication device on our on our machines, or if you maybe logged into systems and you've had a token code appear on a dongle or something like that, something you have, or something you are, which is a lot of what we do today, which is biometrics, right? So you open your phone with your thumbprint or your face, that is something you are factor. So multi-factor authentication means using more than one of those. And so typically what we do now is it'll be your password, and then it'll be one other factor. Maybe you log in with this code that you get, again, which is something you have. And so it can't be understated how important that is for your any account that contains money, or you can do transactions with. Frankly, any social media account, because there's a lot of social media takeover attacks. Really, anywhere where it's offered, I would really suggest doing it. The other great tool that I would suggest is a password manager. So if you use an iPhone or a Mac, or even I'm sure on Windows machines now, this comes somewhat built in. In other words, you don't need to remember your password. There's this secure piece of software on the machine that remembers your password for you. So therefore, you don't have to reuse passwords. You can make very long passwords that you never know because it's being secured. But there are other apps that allow this. Common ones are called LastPass or 1Password, and these allow you to do a similar thing without using the built-in software that the operating system provides. They also allow you to store other things. For example, like you can kind of store your credit card numbers or your driver's license numbers. Again, it's kind of the secure vault. And really, you only have to remember one password or authenticate to one thing, which lets you into this vault, and you can see all your credentials for everything else. This has been a very valuable tool. You can also share passwords amongst people if you have that kind of situation at home. I don't know, maybe you share Netflix passwords or things like that. Instead of sending them in text message or however that's happening, you can use tools like this to do that. We've spoken about this. Really, just be careful when clicking on links and opening attachments. Make sure you're very sure about what those are. Guard social media. We can talk about that if folks are interested. But again, really limit, I think, what we're sharing on social media. Certainly no PII or anything like that. And then, yeah, so if home and family, we mentioned a safe word. We mentioned securing devices and parental controls. We can talk about that if this group is interested in any of those. Yeah, I mean, I think that covers most of it. This page has, if we're sharing the deck, has some good other kind of advice and guidance on that. And if anyone sees anything stand out, I'd be happy to drill more into those. But I think those are the kind of the key takeaways.
So really appreciate it, Richard. Some things that I'm doing here in my practice or my office, what we're doing here in our practice is taking this next step up. So if you have been hacked or if you have been compromised in any way, shape, or form, I know we mentioned having a family password or safe word, which my own family, we just started talking about. And one thing is we were discussing which password or what word it would be. And we realized our phones were in the room, and we all know the phones are listening to us because we can talk about, whatever, looking at a new couch or something. Next thing you know, you get ads on your phone for a new couch. So we know the phones are listening. So we decided that we would announce the password to each other in a secure room or a secure place out in the yard where no one's going to listen. Because unfortunately, this is the world we live in, and you have to do this sort of thing. So with that said, if you are hacked or compromised in any way, shape, or form regarding your accounts over here with us, we can do the same sort of thing. We can have a safe password on the account. So even if somebody calls and I think I'm talking to you, right? Sounds like you, and it comes from a 860 or a 203 phone number, and I swear it must be you. This password is something we can put on your account so that you would have to read that off to us before we can do any sort of transacting and so on and so forth. But with that said, there's another software system which Cetera, our broker dealer, recently approved for us. This is a third-party software, but it's called Careful. And what it does is it's all for complimentary, so you don't have to pay for it or anything. It's something we can just attach or help you get logged into for the first time. But what it does is provides surveillance and protection against any fraud or any theft out of your accounts. So I just got an email myself this morning saying somebody was Venmo'd yesterday. It was only $10, and I know exactly what it was. But if there's any transactions that are out of the norm, they're not the regular bill pay, then you get an email to your email address saying, hey, look, this amount of money just fled. And so the point there is really to catch any money that's leaving that's been fraudulently taken or stolen out of your bank accounts or even your credit card accounts. The Careful software also helps you organize your bills, so you know when everything's coming up, which you may or may not use, but it does also monitor your identity, so your social security number, It'll tell you if you're on the dark web, if your social security number or your phone numbers have been stolen or are out there being circulated on the dark web, meaning people are trading your information, selling it to someone else so they can scam you. It also does credit monitoring for the same reasons, just in case anybody opens up some sort of new credit in your name. You're going to get an alert stating that that's happening. There's also secure sharing. So Richard mentioned the having a password manager. But what about that one password that you have that this is the safe word? What if you forget that? So that's something you could lock into this system's vault, if you will, or any of the passwords that you have out there. And then also, lastly, the home titles. So something we didn't touch on today yet was the fact that people are stealing your homes now. They're able to go to the town hall and fill some paperwork out. And it's shocking to me that the towns are not systems. So
Okay.
let me ask Richard a question. So, Richard, if somebody has, let's say their email is compromised, somebody's hacked into their email, and we don't know what the damage is, what are the steps? What do you do in that situation? Because a lot of these multi-factor authentications, not all of them. Some go to your cell phone. There's a text message, which seems safer to me. But what if they get into your email and they're able to do multi-factor authentication right through their email that they have access to at that point?
Yeah, so I'll say a number of things about email. Number one, if you suspect anyone has accessed your email, or even before turning on MFA, there's again, this is for email, this is for your Facebook. There's all these options. There's a button normally somewhere in settings or in this, like in the security settings page, that you can just log everyone out. So in other words, if somebody has already logged in and they're logged in and they've compromised your email, you want to just kick them out, and there is a button that allows you to do that. It's like log out from everywhere. It will log you out. You will have to log back in, and then you'll be able to see you only have one logged in device, and you can turn on MFA from there. So that would be the first thing I would do. The other thing, just around generally in terms of email security and email kind of hygiene, email is not a secure place to have documents, to have passwords, to have credit card numbers. I would not use email to send any of those things or to store any of those things. One is, yes, you don't know where, you try to be careful, but there's always the risk of compromise of your own email. But once you've sent that email, you have to worry about the security of the email system on the other side also. So in terms of best practice, if you have to send documents or things like that, I've had to do this myself, obviously, when you're buying a house or I deal with immigration thing, whatever. The best practice will be to encrypt the document that you're sending, and then phone the person that's receiving the document with the password. So encrypting essentially means saving it with a password. So you create the document on your machine, you save it, you have the option to add a password, you create your password, you hit send. That person on the other side will not be able to access that document without the password, in which you should most likely just call them with the password, is what we call providing the password out of band. Providing the password in a separate email is obviously less secure. It's not bad, but it's not as good as doing it out of band. Yeah. So Leo, what do you do? I think the thing that you need to think about is, what did I have in my email and what should I be concerned about? I would be very vigilant about, if my email is compromised, about any email I receive after that. I would be vigilant about calls that I receive, etc. And again, yeah, if you're signed up to kind of an identity kind of protection service like this, that could help. It'll start to identify information of yours that's on the dark web, emails, passwords. Again, if I had passwords in my email in a document, maybe you stored all your passwords in a spreadsheet or something that you emailed yourself. If my email was compromised, I would go and change all of those passwords immediately. Kind of anything that I had exposure to that I knew was in my email and I knew I had been breached, I would try to go and rectify that. But to a certain extent, you're trying to close the barn door after the horse is already bolted. There's another thing to note, which is just generally best practice now in terms of identity protection, and that is freezing your credit. So ensuring that your credit is frozen can really limit the exposure that you would have.
Great, thank you. Okay. Any other questions? I will add that we are recording this and all the information will be emailed out to you afterwards. Anybody else that you know who you're concerned about might be a victim of this sort of thing, please don't hesitate to reach out. Maybe we can help them as well. Any last questions for Richard? The website Richard mentioned that you can check to see if you've been compromised or if your information's out there being sold on the dark web. I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Pwned.
Yeah, have I been pwned? Yeah.
Yeah. So you can just type in your email here, and it'll tell you how many times your website, your information's been traded, and so on and so forth. So